Hey, what's up guys, my name's Storm. Welcome to another tutorial, Fire Emblem Heroes, Positional Assist Skills. I'm saying that pretty quickly because I had to re-record all of this because there were problems that occurred during the bulk of the recording, and now I have to re-record every bit of it a few days later. And it's Tuesday now, so I'm gonna have to edit this quite quickly. So basically, Positional Assist Skills are movement skills that may put a spin on your, I guess, typical movement skills that you may have for row formation, which is what we're using today. They will spice things up a bit, so I guess if you want to use them, that's what they're there for. That is what this tutorial is for, after all. A few things here. I'll be using a new project, finally. No RPG Maker video next week, though I guess in this case, technically it might be this week. Not sure. Few problems occurred during the actual tutorial itself. The skills I'll be covering are Reposition, Shove, Pivot, and Drawback. I won't be doing Swap or Smite because, well, they're either too complicated or not necessary at all because, well, Smite is basically just a larger shove. So I won't be doing that. Besides that, yeah, forgive me if I forget anything that happens in the tutorial because it has been quite a bit. So let's get started. It's time to go with the plugins. We have 3 today, and we have Row Formation, Selection Control, and Skill Core. Technically, you do need Battle Engine Core and Target Core as well, mostly because Selection Control requires both of those. So I guess you can slap those in the requirements, but you know, we're focusing on these 3 because these 3 are the ones we want to actually like use, technically. Skill Core, I'll have to explain that later. There is a reason why we're using Skill Core, which may not sound... You know what, I'll explain that later. Besides that, I do have to explain one thing, and that is the format of this video. We'll be introducing each skill individually, but we will be showing a preview of the skill in Fire Emblem Heroes before I do the explanation for that skill. Then I'll be showing the demonstration right after, but not with any like overlaying audio, just immediately on the spot showing what that skill is gonna look like in RPG Maker. Besides that, yeah, not too much. I think it's time to go over the first skill, and I believe it is Shove. It's time to go over our first skill, Shove. Go into our database here, go into Skills, as soon as it loads. Here we have Shove. Shove is a skill in which a user in the first or third row, aka the front or back row, will be able to push a target in an adjacent row, in this case, away from them. Basically, if they're in row 3, the target's in row 2. Well, the target has to be in row 2 for this one. The one in row 2 will move to row 1. I'll be explaining that hopefully with a preview at the beginning and the demonstration at the end, but let's continue with the actual skill itself. We want to use the scope. Well, actually, the scope doesn't really matter because we'll be using row formation for that. Here, it doesn't really matter too much. What we want to focus on is in the notes. We're using the custom select condition, which is found from. Pretty sure this is row formation. No, actually, this is selection control. Pretty sure. If the target's row is equal to 2, aka if the target, as in the one who's gonna get moved around in this case, then we'll be able to use the skill. Otherwise, we won't be able to, which is what this entire thing is saying. So condition equals true, condition equals false. Going on to row only 1 and 3. Now this is also technically a select condition, but it's not selecting the target, it's where the user's located. So the user has to be in the front row or the back row in this case. You can't use OR, by the way, I tried. I should probably have learned my lesson by now, but you can't use OR. You have to use a comma. Custom target row. Well, if the user's row, using this script call from row formation, is equal to 1, we'll be playing the animation and adding 1 to the row. So if the user is, well, I mean, first of all, this is affecting the target because custom target row. So if the user is in the front row, we'll be pushing the target to the back row, because 2 plus 1 equals 3, and 3 is the back row itself. This is number designated to the back row. Otherwise, we'll be pushing that target forward towards the front row, because 2 minus 1 is 1. I really don't have to explain that part, but just so we're clear here. Alright, so I'll be showing the demonstration here in case you don't understand any of that. And let's go into the next skill. This is quite a doozy. Alright, going on to pivots. Usable in the front or back row. Technically, I don't have to read most of this because this is very similar to shove actually, which is why I'm doing this right after shove. The only difference is that this is moving, instead of the target, we're moving the user to the opposite side of the target. AKA, the user's in row 3, and there is an available target in row 2. We're moving that user straight to row 1. So, they swap. So if they're in the front, they go to the back. If they're in the back, they go to the front. Well, yeah, basically that. Custom select condition and row only are actually going to be the exact same as shove. So nothing to change there. What we want to change here is in, well, these note tags here. Instead of custom target row, we're going with custom user row because this is moving the user, not the target. If user row is in row 1, aka the front, we'll be adding the row by 2. So we can move them all the way to the back, moving them 2 rows. Otherwise, we'll be subtracting the row by 2. So if they're in the back, we'll be moving to the front. I know I keep repeating the same things, but for clarification purposes, I'm gonna have to. Because again, this is quite a bit complicated. But the next one and the one after that are even more complicated than these two, so let's go with those. It never really occurs to me how weird my voice sounds on RPG Maker tutorials, but here we go, reposition! Well, the reason why this is after pivot is because it is kind of similar. Let's just say that since pivot is the user jumping over the target, and this one is the target moving the user. It's the same thing though. The one being moved is just swapping from front to back or back to front, which is why it's very similar to pivot. Now we're gonna have a custom select condition here, but it's gonna be the opposite. If the target's row is equal to 2, we'll consider this false because we are targeting the one who's being moved here, instead of the one in the middle not being moved. So basically, it's the opposite because condition true here, condition false here, and the opposite is true here. Alright, going to row only, we're going to be setting the row only to 2 because we only want this to be usable from someone in the middle row. Now going on to custom target row, going back to target now, not user, just so we're clear here. The target row is in the front, so if they're in the front, we'll move them all the way to the back. Actually, this is very similar to pivot. Again, the only change here is basically that, well, replace user with target for this section. That's basically what we have here, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Basically, you replace user with target. Alright, hopefully we have a demonstration right here. Forgot to say that in the last one, but hopefully I'll put it anyways. Alright, going on the drawback. Alright, going on to the most complicated one, because I'm gonna have to show the preview right here. Probably constantly, but it is a bit complicated. So we want this to be usable by someone in the middle row, and this is drawback. Now, the user will be moving... Oh boy. Okay, so the target has to be in either the front or the back row. In this scenario, again, this tutorial is oddly specific. So the target has to be in either the front or back row, the user has to be in the middle row, and the user will be basically pulling the target and themselves backwards. I say backwards, but it's the row opposite. So if the target is in row, say the target's in the front row and the user's in the middle row, the user will be the target and the user will be moving back one row. Oh boy. So the row that hasn't been occupied, the back row, is where the user will go in that scenario, and the target in the front row will be moved to the middle row, where the user just was. That's about all I can do to explain it. The user and the target move in a direction opposite of where the target is in relation to the user. So the target's in front, the two of them will be moving backwards. The target's in the back, the two of them will be moving forwards. Yeah, quite complicated in this scenario. I'll be showing a demonstration here. No, I won't. I have to explain the whole thing, actually. Scratch that, I have to explain... well... Okay, skill core is required here, because without it, you cannot move the target and use it to different rows. Apparently that's a very strange quirk, but... yeah, you can't move the target and the user to different rows in the same skill, apparently. Anyways, we're already using this one particular skill core note tag here, but we'll be talking about that later. Let's talk about what we actually knew before. Custom select condition will be the same as reposition, so if the target row is 2, we won't be able to use the skill. Otherwise, we will be able to use the skill, because obviously it's the opposite. The only row you can use this in is if you're in row 2, and we're going to be changing the custom target row. The target row. So again, if the target's in the front, we'll move them towards the middle. If the target's in the back, we'll also be moving them to the middle. That's what this entire conditional branch is saying. Now we'll be going on to the skill core, which is the only thing we had to add in here. We're going to be using the before evaluation note tags. Now, if the target's row is in row 1, so the target's in the front row, we'll be setting the user to go into the back row, because again, the user moves to the row that is opposite of the one the target was initially occupying. Okay, you know what, drawback is way too complicated to explain. Otherwise, if the target is in the back row, then the user will be moving to the front, because the user... so basically the user and the target will be moving forward. Okay, this is way too complicated. I'll be showing a demonstration right here. Hopefully I'm showing both directions, because this will be way too complicated without it. I don't know what that was. Okay. And anyways, let's go on to the outro, because... oh boy. Well, that was a train wreck, especially if you had to re-record it 1 week or a few days later. Hey, my name is Runefire Storm. I've wanted to do this tutorial for a while, but I didn't think it was possible. But then again, I was only looking at row formation, not selection control. So there's that. Also, I might sound tired, and that's because it's quite hot, and my windows are all closed, so I can reduce sound, even though you might hear an airplane or two. Like right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and bearing, hopefully, with my, my terrible explanations for this one. That's why I need previews and demonstrations relating to the individual skills quite within a short time span of the actual explanations. Yeah, regardless, I didn't really want to re-record this. I wasn't too satisfied with my previous recordings, but I am quite satisfied with the fact that my previous recordings are probably better than this recording. Which is unfortunate because I didn't check if my video recording was fine or not. I just thought, oh, it's definitely perfect and fine. But nope, it was not fine. So I'm pretty sure this one will be fine though, thankfully. I don't think any problems really went with here, except my explanations, of course. Okay, next tutorial will be coming in like at least 2 weeks. Not sure if so again, next week no tutorial. Or no RPG Maker video actually, because I will be, well, I guess next week as in like Sunday, not like later than a week. I might be able to do one later in a week, but I am not going to be editing later this week, basically. But I do know what my next tutorial is going to be, and it's going to be a lot more simpler than this. It is going to relate to Fire Emblem Heroes though, so sure. I might do a recreative before that though, so look out for that. Alright, with that said, this episode is over. I say episode, but it's tutorial. So, see you guys, and stay safe.